Hey, so this is going to be one of my first installments in a multi-part series. Eventually, I will push out the bigger videos, but this is going to be one of the shorter ones, and this is going to be part of a multi-part series for my 1985 Z31 of how to basically repair, fully take apart, remove all that good stuff to your digital gauge cluster. Now this is an 86 gauge cluster, but my car's an 85. I know for a fact the 85 and 86 have pretty much the same cluster, just a bit, maybe more updated with capacitors and things like that, but no different in the layout, front and back. So this first video is going to be a smaller one, basically slowly panning through, showing you what the board should look like. So maybe if your board isn't functioning, you can see if any parts are missing, if anything is disconnected, or if anything isn't how it seems it should be. So one of the first things I want to do is show y'all what a good connector looks like that is working. You can see nice and clean. I've had very hard time breaking these clips, and I haven't broken any in the car or on the dash, either dash that I've worked on. And you can see nice and clean in there. No corrosion, no cracking on the clip. The clip should be in good shape. If you have a broken connector, that can cause issues with it being loose in there, even though they are a very tight fit where it plugs into the car. Following this wire down, you can see it connects to this big main board. I'm going to call this board the main board, and then you can see there's two. I'm going to call this board the screen board because it has the screen of the gauge cluster, which we'll get to more later. You can see following the clip down, the wires down where it connects, and what you want to do on the connection side, you just want to look in there real good. Make sure they're all connected and there is no corrosion. I will include pictures of what my dash in my car now looked like when I cleaned off the corrosion, because it was pretty bad on all the wires and connectors. But as you can see, this one's real nice and clean, no corrosion. Come down here, give it a second to focus. All these soldering joints look really good. They're nice and full, whatever that means. They don't have any cracking on them. I haven't experienced with any of these being bad. So, if they are bad, you can just either reheat the solder with a soldering iron to reseat the soldering joint. You can see all these look really good. This is what a good soldering joint should look like. Moving to the next clip. This is another clip. Again, very good condition. Pins are in good condition. Follow it to where it connects to the board. This is a larger one, so ignore my feet. You can see, again, very good non-corroded connections. Flip it over. Again, very good non-corroded, non-cracked soldering joints. Very nice there. And then this is the trouble plug. This right here is what I had horrible corrosion on, and we'll pan to my shelf of parts right here. Ignore the mirror with my sexy body. This is the power unit that most people will instantly tell you, oh, go get that resoldered, go fix your power unit. It's your power unit. No, I have two power units. This dash actually came with my car when we purchased it from Sterling McCall South Loop used vehicles, which doesn't exist anymore because they're a piece of shit place. Never buy from a damn car dealership, I swear. This is the power unit. This longest connector on your gauge cluster, sorry if I call it a dash a lot, is what plugs in there. And you see, go ahead, we'll inspect the connectors. You see that blue? That is not actually corrosion. I'll show y'all what corrosion looks like. You'll be able to tell. Here's a little bit that's left on this dash, actually. You can see that component right here has corrosion right there, and the corrosion kind of went down and corroded this component. This is just blue grease to help prevent corrosion and, you know, better connections. So this clip, you know, looks all good. Connectors aren't broken. Broken connectors on this clip would definitely be an issue because the power supply, if you don't have this connected, your dash, the screen won't even turn on. So I'll show a separate video, really easy, on how to take this thing apart. I'll show a full video on how to inspect it. But just for this video, easiest part, looking at the pins, they're all straight, non-corroded, looks really good in there. The easiest thing to do if you suspect this is bad, it may sound like a pain in the ass, but get another. Especially if you're by a junkyard that has Z's, you're very blessed, because everyone I've met on Facebook and whatnot telling me to make these videos is nowhere near a Z junkyard, or a junkyard with a Z. And even if it is a Z, odds are it's probably not digital. So there's that. This is likely not your issue if you're having major issues with your dash, like flickering, things like certain gauges not functioning. We follow this cord all the way down to the board. You can see where it connects. This is right here. Don't be afraid to like wiggle this cord around or anything. It's not going to come unattached. And here's a good note. If you're moving this board around and you're wiggling things and one of these come on soldered from the board, you want that. You don't want to put this back in your car and it's not functioning. If something is loose enough where you can jiggle it around, something like this where you can move it around and it will come off, it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be fairly good attached. You can move it around, you know, you're not supposed to move it around as that will weaken it, but you see you can move it around. It's not gonna break off. This you want to be really careful with. It is by this, which I cleaned with a toothbrush, so you're prone to bump into this. This will come off very easily. And yeah, you can get it resoldered on, but that's money you don't have to pay for. So just be careful with this component. Be careful when you're cleaning up around this power supply connector. And you can see in there is some blue grease. Let me get a pen or something to point this out to y'all. You can see on these connections, it looks a little discolored from silver, but that is just grease. It's just electric grease. And I will make a detailed video on how to clean this, because I did find a very good method for everything on this cluster on how to clean everything and how to deal with everything. Methods on how to put it back in the car very effortlessly, how to bench test it in the car very effortlessly. A lot of good videos that should be very helpful to y'all. But now let's get to the main part and main point of this video after I've done all the explaining, and do a slow pan of every section, components that should be there, and what they should look like. Now this video, this series will not be short. I'm warning y'all now, this is for Z drivers who want their car fixed. This isn't for someone who wants a quick fix, because these cars are not a quick fix. And I found that usually this area of the board is less problematic. It's usually connectors. And if it is something here that's problematic, it's going to be a bad component, blown capacitor. The main issue on my board is that this chip right here fell out when I took my board off. So I don't think it was even connect. I went and got it resoldered on all these pins down here for 20 bucks. So that $20 right there, an hour, $20, same day, to get this little chip resoldered on this main board was only $20. That should be a good reference to y'all on what y'all should pay if you need to get something resoldered onto your board. And again, panning through, you know, you can pause the video where needed. Everything on this board looks great. All the components are present, they're not blown. These capacitors, you'll be able to tell if they're blown because they will be bulging. These will be bulging if they're blown. these will be bulging. A lot of stuff will look bad if it's bad, so it's pretty easy. Right here, a good note, these are the connectors, the pins that connect the bottom board and the top board. So you do want to spend a good minute with a good light looking at these solder joints, and these all look good, and these all look good. Good example of what good solder joints should look like. Now I will note, I put this board in my car and it did not work. So there is something wrong with this main board, but I don't know what it is. And these boards, this board or the face, they can just randomly die. So if they do randomly die, that's a good parts board, but not a good board to use in your car because it won't work. Last time panning through, all pins nice and straight, all components nice and present, not blown. Stuff like this on the board, you see this yellow stuff, someone commented about it on Facebook that it'll kill your board. No, it won't. It's just grease, glue, things they use to make the board. This is going to do no harm, and you do not want to have any worries about cleaning it off because it's just extra shit you don't need to do. And extra shit you're doing can be extra risk, and you want to minimize your risk when working on this board, because I don't know of any schematics or anything, any information on these boards on where to get components. And the thing that my repair guy, when I got this soldered on, told me is that if he were to work on this board, he would need schematics. And I'm buying a Haynes manual. I'll share that with y'all. I'll see if there's schematics in that Haynes manual. But now I'm going to sum up this part, and I'm going to take these two boards apart and show y'all the other sides. This is the corrosion. All right. Just a note, it will take some force after you get all of these surrounding clips off, which are a pain in the ass, and I will make a video on. You need to pry pretty hard, but not super hard, to get these connectors disconnected from this board. This is the board I was just showing y'all. Let's flip it over. Look at this. Continue. Whoa. In order. You do not want to drop these. They are fragile. Ignore this. This is just from 91% alcohol that I use to clean my board. Same here, 91% alcohol, just residue left behind that you don't need to worry about. Now the back of the board will be less problematic. If this is so corroded that you want to take it off and clean it, which you do not have to take anything off to clean it at all unless it is a crazy case, these are the solder joints right here on the back. So I'll just show y'all those real quick. As you can see, all these look really good, really nice shape. Same here, these are the other wires I was showing y'all earlier. This connector right here connects this board with this board. It's just another connection. This will get corroded. Mine was really corroded. You want to check in there. You see some of that grease that might confuse y'all. Definitely confused me. You know, this is a tight fit too, so if the connector's broken, you know, and you have to use it, just shove it in there and don't wiggle it around. Wiggling is what will hurt your loose connectors. And I'm just gonna make this back part real quick since I didn't have any issues on either boards with the back. I'll just show y'all, you know, go through, so show y'all each component so that if y'all do want to look on the back of your board, you can pause it, you know, see if everything looks right, if it all looks good. There you go. Nice and simple. With these, you want to make sure they're straight. You want to make sure they're on there solid. If these come off when you're wiggling them, then it's probably best that they came off, because you're going to need to put those back on. These should not be loose. These should not be able to come off with just some wiggling. That being said, moving on to the back of this gauge cluster. I wrote does not work, but turns out it was this board that was faulty. So this board is still a question mark. As you can see, very clean, no corrosion. All these chips or whatever right here on there nice and good. They're not coming off. These bulbs, if you have bulbs that don't work, now is a good time to change them. And I don't have a link to buy them because I just robbed them off of my spare board, as you can tell right here. I'll make a whole video on this too. I'll make a video on everything, how to change the color. You know, I'll help y'all out. But I'm just gonna pan through the back of this board so y'all can see if things look as it should. I just saw something with my camera. Okay, that's just grease. I was looking at this right here, but I can tell that's just grease. Pan through, everything looks good. Now this is just a rubber piece, so you don't really need to worry about that being corroded, although get rid of as much corrosion as possible. You want no corrosion when you're done. Pan through, show y'all what it's supposed to look like, what a good healthy looking board should look like. Looks all good. These are very easy to clean. Just take your toothbrush, rub it up with some 91% alcohol, and you're done. Now, this board I didn't even have to mess with. It was all this board that was the issue, so I'm not going to be as familiar with this board. But I suspect y'all shouldn't have that much issue with this either. Now here, you can see these dark spots on the cluster. Those are not an issue. Those are also present on the one I have in my car. These are not LEDs. These are fluorescent bulbs, I learned. These are light bulbs. These are fluorescents. They didn't have LEDs back in the 80s, guys. So panning through, again, solder joints all look good. Glass isn't cracked, you know, everything is on here nice and tight. If anything on here is wiggly and loose, then you need to look into it because it shouldn't be wiggly and loose. Now on my dash, even though I did fully repair it, you see it goes all the way up to 18. My bar gauge functions completely, but my number gauge only functions 1 through 5. I don't know why. It might just be burnt out, a chip, but yeah, I'm just glad it works and I'm leaving it alone. With that being said, I'm gonna remind y'all again, this is a very tedious, time-consuming process. This is a long video. They're all gonna be long videos, as detailed as possible to help you guys out. That's it for this first installment. Next installment, I'm gonna try to make it how to remove your dash, and I'm gonna show y'all how to fully take apart your dash so you can get it down your gauge cluster, how to take apart your gauge cluster so you can get it to this level. I have it here. Just remember to be patient, very patient, very careful, be very aware of what you're doing, what you might be bending when you're moving your board around. Again, you don't have to worry about these cables, but you do need to worry about the electric components. So be careful when you're moving your board around. Be careful with these pins. You can bend them, even though you have these black little stoppers. They're not stoppers, but I'm gonna call them that. That keep the pins from being pushed on when you have your cluster just sitting like this. Be careful with that. Be careful when you're cleaning these wires, as they can come off the board and you'll have to get it resoldered or do it yourself. And that is it for this first part of how to inspect your dash and good to know stuff.